So, welcome to Walter Lübeck. I am so honored that Walter's agreed to come on to this little journey with us for on behalf of Reiki Australia and all the Reiki practitioners in Australia. A lot of the younger ones don't know who you are, but as we were saying when we started to chat, yours were amongst the earliest books that I read. And I'm just going to have a little introduction about Walter so everybody understands who he is. Walter is a well-known Reiki master. He lives in Germany, incidentally. He's a spiritual teacher and the author of, I believe, about 25 books. He was attuned and trained to Usui Reiki Level 1 in 1987, Reiki Level 2 in 88, and he became a master in 89. He was attuned and trained by Brigitte Müller, a German Reiki master who was also a master student from Phyllis Furumoto. In 2000 to 2001, he trained in Jikiden Reiki, and most of you will know that that is the Japanese style of Reiki. And he trained under the late Chiyoko Yamaguchi and her son Tadao later on. He began developing Rainbow Reiki shortly after being trained into Level 1, and he integrated additional spiritual and energy healing techniques into the traditional Usui system. He did so because sometimes Reiki did not bring the desired results of healing that he wanted. So he did the research, he developed lots of different solutions and new techniques to apply the Reiki energy in new ways to help his clients, and then since 1989, all of his students. He has been involved in Reiki since 1987, and that is mammoth. That's almost 40 years. And developed his own approach, incorporating shamanic traditions, chakra work, sacred symbols. His style of Reiki is referred to as Rainbow Reiki, which brings in all the colors, doesn't it? It's just such a wide visual since the midst of the 1980s, which expands on the Usui system with additional energy techniques, symbols, mantras, spiritual healing practices, additional initiations, and deeper work with chakras and meridians. Walter teaches the vast content of Rainbow Reiki in about 20 different classes. Since 2012, Rainbow Reiki is a registered trademark in all countries in the EU and Norway. And today, Rainbow Reiki is taught by hundreds of teachers in about 15 countries to students of about 40 different countries. So thank you, Walter, for joining us here on behalf of Reiki Australia. We are just so grateful to have you here because you are one of the founders of the history of Reiki that we've worked on right throughout the Western world. And so what I want to know is first, what drew you to Reiki and how did your journey begin? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, thank you, Carol. That's a very, I think it's a weird story because I had no idea of Reiki, nothing. At that time, 87, they were out, I think, well, there was out one book about Reiki, and I didn't know that book because all the booksellers, they didn't want to do anything with Reiki. They
Mm.
thought it's a kind of abracadabra voodoo stuff and forget it, it's a sect, it's a cult or whatever. They didn't have it. So if you wanted to buy a book about Reiki, you needed to attend a class about Reiki. And there the class teachers would sell books, this book about Reiki in German. I was at a naturopathic doctor and he did me a lot of good and he talked with me because at that time I was in the industry, being a co-owner of a plastic company in the oil and mining industry area.
Wow.
And I had a lot of traveling, international traveling, and English language customers in UK, in Netherlands, in Norway, Spain, and Austria, and so on. And I was very unhappy. I was very depressed. And this guy told me a lot about changing my lifestyle. And I thought, come on, please, I have a dream job. So then one day, I saw this certificate on the wall in his practice telling that he was first degree Reiki. And I thought, that sounds Japanese, but what the heck is Reiki? I was a little bit into martial arts, so I thought I knew most of the common methods, but Reiki I never heard. And I asked him, what is Reiki? He said, I will not tell you, but in about 4 weeks, there is a class here. You come and you learn that. I said, okay. So I came to that class and I had absolutely no idea what this was all about. And we were with about close to 30 people in a small room, really
Wow.
cramped, you know.
That's
Yeah.
a large
And
class, isn't it?
yeah, well, at that time it was large classes because there was just a handful of teachers in the whole German language area.
Mm.
And it was all going around by word of mouth. So you were lucky if there was a class nearby that you could attend. And there was this teacher, and she was a former photo model, and she had these white gowns and an Indian musical instrument. We were singing bhajans and these kind of things. We got initiated, and people told me about Kundalini rising and angels appearing, and I thought, interesting, interesting, very interesting. So this was my first step into Reiki. That brought me there, and then I had the first time on Monday my hands at the same place when I was driving towards the company where I was working, and my arms were tingling and became hot. And I thought, what is that? And I thought maybe that was kind of hypnosis, but I couldn't remember anything. So I started to treat people, and many of them got much better, and they were sending their friends and their acquaintances to me, and I was treating. And then after a while, there was this situation with my that time girlfriend. She had inflammation in the ovaries, and she was at the doctor. The doctor said, "Oh gosh, we need to do surgery tomorrow morning." So she was like that because she never had surgery and she didn't want surgery and so on. So we
Understandable.
asked our what?
Understandable that
Yes,
she would not want
absolutely.
to.
I don't want surgery. So um, we called our Reiki master in Frankfurt, and she said, "Well, we'll give you distant treatment." We heard about the second degree then, you know,
Yes.
and she treated my girlfriend, and I was treating her parallel with the hands on, and then she cried a little bit, and she was sleeping until next morning. Next morning, no symptoms, nothing. She was hopping down the stairs and walking up the stairs, nothing.
I love
She was
that.
going to the doctor. The doctor said after a very detailed diagnosis, if I would not have seen you yesterday, I would have thought you were just faking symptoms because there isn't anything. I
Wow.
don't have to do surgery because you're completely healthy. So then I decided I want to study second degree. So this is how I came into the whole Reiki thing. And well, then after second degree, I experienced so many wonders, I would say, that I thought I want to teach that. More people need to learn that. So I
Totally.
studied master teacher.
Excellent. And so, can you share any memorable experiences apart from that first one? That was the thing that really got you over the line, wasn't it? In your early
Yeah.
training.
Well, yeah. I had a I had a training which was more than a year, and within that training, I became very doubtful. I thought maybe it's not the right thing I do here. At that time, also, it was expensive to become a Reiki master. So we're talking about
The $10,000.
30, yes, 36,000 German marks at that time
Wow.
because the dollar was 3 German marks, something. And I thought maybe I should do something else, get back to the plastic company and so on. And while talking with another student about that, when attending a class with my Reiki master, where we were going to a restaurant in the evening, I thought, oh, I have put my foot on something and I need to put it away because it's not good to walk with this. So I looked under the sole of my shoe, and there was this little target made out of plastic, green, with concentric rings of gold, and in the middle
Wow.
was the winner. And I thought,
Okay.
I have to go on with this training.
Those little signs we get, the synchronicities.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Excellent.
And there were so many situations with Reiki where I experienced little, small, and mid-sized miracles. At that time, I was treating a lot, and the treatment convinced me.
Mm. I think I had the same sort of thing. I had lots of miracles with people along that pathway, and even my own. The first time I did Reiki, I had swollen knees for 3 years with chondromalacia patella, blah blah blah. And I put my hands on my knees for 20 minutes, and I got up the next day, and the swelling and pain was gone after these cracked patellas, and I could run. And I just remember
Oh,
going,
oh,
"Oh my God, this is not my imagination. This is real."
this
And
is
it was a
real. Yeah,
convincer. Yeah, yes,
yeah,
so true.
that was convincing. I think this is something which brought us all into Reiki. I remember one time when I was driving with my girlfriend to France in a holiday, and I had this car with a sunroof and no air conditioning. At that time, air conditioning was virtually not gettable in Germany when you got a car. And it was summer, and there was this wind blowing all the time. And in the evening, I had a really big pain here. So I knew a little bit about medicine. I thought, oh gosh, I need to go back. Then she treated me for about an hour and a half, and I had to sneeze a lot, and there was a lot of mucus running, and then it was gone. It was
Excellent.
gone. I could go on with a journey, the vacation. Things like that happened all the time. So I experienced Reiki is for real, like you said.
Yeah. Yes, I had a young girl who was 24 who had cervical cancer, and they told her it was so bad she'd have to have a total hysterectomy in 2 weeks. We did one
Yeah.
treatment. She said, "My feels like my cervix is on fire." And I said, "Great, well, you draw what you need for your own healing." And 2 weeks later, she rang me and she said, "I went to theatre and they can't find it." So we
Wow.
just have so many of these wonderful stories, don't we?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's a blessing from above. I'm so happy that we have that.
Yes. And so you studied with Brigitte Müller and later trained in Jikiden Reiki with Chiyoko and Tadao Yamaguchi. Can you
Mhm.
tell me what drew you to try to do the Japanese training, and how those experiences just really shaped your understanding of Reiki? Because that's back to the roots, isn't it? It's back to Japan.
Oh, I don't think so.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
well, you see, many people understand Reiki as being Japanese. In my understanding, it's not.
Okay. All right. Can you
Usui
explain
was
a bit more?
Japanese.
Yes,
Yes, of course, of course.
that's
Usui was
good.
Japanese. Yes. And if you look into the handbook of Usui and the handbook of Hayashi, which, for example, is printed as part
I've
of the
got
book
those.
Spirit of Reiki.
Yeah, I've got
What?
those. I've got those two
Yeah.
books. Yes.
And Ajava also made extra books out of them with beautiful photos.
Yes.
When you read that, you see that what they did then, what Usui did then, was very different from what we do today.
Yes, that makes sense. Yeah,
So
because things
Jikiden
evolve.
Reiki is what the Yamaguchis remembered together with some people of their family from the Reiki system they learned from Hayashi.
Okay, and
And
Hayashi was
Hayashi,
military, so it's going to
well,
have a totally different flavor, isn't it?
I'm not sure about, well, he of course he was
Yeah.
military. Uh, anyway, he did not exactly what Uzui did. He developed his
Oh,
own style.
look, I think everybody does, and people don't take that into account, do they? They think mine's the
That's
only
okay.
way, and there are many
No,
rivers
that's
to the one
yes,
ocean.
of course. That's
Mm.
quite okay. Uh, just it's that I can't say this is the Japanese Reiki. No,
Yeah.
it's a Japanese Reiki.
Excellent. No, I really appreciate you saying that because it just opens the door to some other views, doesn't it? Because a lot of people that are doing traditional martial arts, because I've got a black belt in Taekwondo as well, they're very black and white and very, this is the way to do it.
No.
Whereas there's no one way to do anything. And it really is about opening our mind to different understandings and taking a little bit from everything and finding a way that it works just for us.
I think
Yeah,
so. I think
yeah,
so. Well, I studied Kung Fu, and the master, I think, was a very good one. And he learned this in China and Hong Kong and so on. And I tried a certain kick, and I didn't really get it. I really tried hard. And then I was asking him, Manfred, I cannot do this kick. Could you please help me? He said, you will never be able to do that kick because you are not Chinese. They have a different build of body. You cannot do that. You
definitely.
need to do this the way which is according to your own figure.
Physiology. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So then I understood that you cannot be Chinese by studying a Chinese art. You cannot be Japanese by studying art which comes from Japan. But if Usui would have been Norwegian, we would have learned runes
Very
because the
true.
energy
I love
is
the
all
runes.
around.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I love the runes too. I give classes about them. And I think they are a great system to understand life. Uzui did not get this. He stated that he originally invented that. I doubt that. I doubt that.
I do. I
Because,
too. Yeah. I've seen more
oh,
studies
great.
that, yeah, yeah. I've seen other studies that there were other things around called Reiki before us, so we took that on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is not nothing negative.
No,
Not at all.
not at all. He formalized it and he's the one that got it out
Yes.
to the world.
Yes. And this is something which I respect very much. Not that it's developed by him. I think, as you stated quite rightly, he made the formula to bring it to the people easily so they can study it easily, and it was able to go all around the world, and the other systems did not.
Yes, and I agree with that. I know that back from what I've read, there were lots of different styles of healing back in those days when he was in
Oh yeah,
Japan doing everything. And
quite a lot.
and so what he did was he put it into a system that could be easily shared. And that was really what he wanted, wasn't it? To share it through the world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And you see, this is something which I also learned when I was going into the history of Jikiden Reiki, that the Yamaguchis did a great work in asking all the family members and gathering the knowledge. And it's also important to understand that until I think the beginning of the 90s, they did Jorei. They lived Jorei. They lived in a big
Yes,
community of people who had nothing to do with Usui Reiki.
that makes sense.
And
Yeah.
when they realized that there was much interest in Usui Reiki, then they were getting all the materials and so on. They did a great job, and Tadao's book is wonderful. I often recommend it to people. Still, for decades, they were doing different healing styles.
Yes. Okay. That's really interesting because yeah, you've got a chance to see both sides of this, which is really good to speak to you about this because yeah, that it's just I know I interviewed our Java too, and he was saying you know that his style was different, but I did mention to him about another person teaching some Japanese style of Reiki, and he just didn't agree with it. You probably know who I mean, but anyway, I just thought, you know, there's so many rivers, one ocean, so many ways to do things. And the Japanese, if you come through a Japanese system, quite often there is that my way or the highway type of thing. And I think we've got to flow, especially in our modern world. We've got to open up our perceptions and realize there's lots of different ways to do things, which is why you've developed Rainbow Reiki, no doubt. So, what did you find were the great differences between the Western style and the Jikiden,
The initiations, for example, they lack
the
the
Reiki?
ceiling,
Yep.
yeah, which we have in the Western style, according to Takada, which he invented, I guess.
Hmm.
Um, It's just it's just a style of Reiki where you have hand positions and where you do distant healing in second degree, and well, they emphasize Byosen, which I think is a great thing.
Hmm.
And there are many concepts which are more easy to grasp in the Western world today, like you do kinesiological muscle testing.
I do touch for health kinesiology as well. So yeah,
Wonderful.
I know what you're
Then
talking about. And Qigong and all sorts of
yeah,
stuff and theta healing
then you
and
know exactly what I'm talking about.
yeah.
So um, the style, I think we need to differentiate. There is a Japanese culture, and the Japanese culture is it's sometimes impressively spiritual, at other times not so. And then there is the Reiki system. And what people often bring together is that they consider Reiki being Japanese. It's not. Reiki is an energy.
It's universal. Yes.
It's universal. It's all around. And it's even mentioned by the philosopher Monk Tse about 500 years before New Age in one of his writings that he says the young monks should do more Ling Chi, which is a Chinese name for
Lychee,
Reiki,
Reiki. Yeah.
instead of doing all this miracle work and impressing people to boost their own ego. So
Sounds
and
good. Yeah.
yeah, that sounds good.
That's
And
right.
that's
Yeah.
what I learned also when I was traveling Hong Kong and I used some martial arts contacts because usually people in Asia they do martial arts and Qigong.
Yep. That makes sense. Yep.
And so I asked the people there, do you know Reiki? And they said, Reiki never heard. I showed them the kanji and said, oh, Ling Chi, yes, we know Ling Chi.
Lychee.
Yeah, Ling Chi. And then I did more research and I found out that the higher grades of Qigong, they learn about Ling Chi, how to do that. And that there were also academic research about Ling Chi in China being the the label for a certain caste of shamans who were the
Wow.
counselors of the kings and dukes and so on, the Wu shamans.
Yep.
And the Reiki kanji is their symbol. So when you see the Reiki kanji in China, this is about Wu shamans.
Okay, because I heard one of your interviews and I know you mentioned that and I was wondering what that was all about. So that makes a lot more sense to me.
These people were famous for their healing abilities, spiritual healing, and they got the healing abilities, the Wu shamans, by climbing one of the many holy mountains in China in springtime, meditating there 3 weeks, fasting. And when they
21
came back,
days.
they had the healing in their hands.
Wow.
So,
Very familiar, isn't it?
very much so. Then I thought I do some research about wherein the yin yang symbol is Reiki. Because the oral teachings say it's non-polar, and this is also my experience. It's
Yes.
non-polar, so that also means you cannot feel it, you cannot sense it. You can sense the effects of Reiki, and you cannot sense Reiki itself. So then, by doing some research about this and talking with my acquaintances who do Qigong, I realized, well, Reiki is neither yin nor yang. It's where yin and yang meet.
That makes sense. And that's a constant flow. And then you've got
Yeah.
your three dantians and your kidney energy that flows into the jin, which then changes into the chi, which changes into the shen. So you've got all those different aspects of energy. And what is it that we feel when we do this? Is that called Reiki or is that called
No,
chi?
it's not Reiki. You cannot feel Reiki because
Okay.
if it would be Reiki, then we would feel many different Reikis because you can do this kind of exercise and you feel different things.
Yeah.
Now, Reiki, the kanji, is made out of two different parts. The Rei part, which we get from the universe, and we are initiated for getting this, and the
Yes.
Ki part, and the Ki is produced in our belly. This
Yes.
is why Takata in her biographies states always when you feel exhausted, when you are being ill, before you give Reiki to others, you give Reiki to your belly. So the Ki is being produced in the belly it goes up here, and then it comes together with a ray from divine and goes as Reiki here. And the ray is being delivered to the recipient while the key is going back into your system and
Mm.
picks up another ray. So this is why Reiki practitioners feel more energized after they gave Reiki. I did a lot of research together with Professor Ignatov, who specialized since 30 years in research about psychics and spiritual healers. And what he found out is that there's a unique thing with Reiki. You find great healers all over the world in different styles. And usually, according to his research, they need a time after they healed someone with their energy to fill up their own energy. So, with his methods of diagnosis, you could see that the energy was going down. Then they did replenishing their own energy. Energy was going up. They could heal another one. Reiki people, very different.
Don't need it. Yeah.
No, they don't need it. They
No.
they are much more energized after the treatment as well as the clients are. So this is, according to him, the only way to scientifically find out whether this guy was initiated to Usui Reiki or not.
Wow. That's really interesting, isn't it? That's wonderful
It
because
is.
I haven't heard anyone speak of it like that before.
We did extensive research about, I think, more than 60 Rainbow Reiki practitioners of all different levels of training. I wanted to know more about Reiki. I felt a lot, I experienced a lot, and I wanted to know, is there anything which you can document by scientific means?
Hmm. Very interesting. And so, can you tell us about your Rainbow Reiki now? Because I know you've studied so many different things, shamanism, the chakras, the meridians, spiritual texts from all over the world. You've been doing this work for such a long time. So how did you put that all together into Rainbow Reiki and formulate it into 20 classes? So I'm sure you've got different things in every class, but everything must build on the session before it.
Yeah, I never intended to do something like that. I never intended to have a, a school. I thought I do traditional Reiki. The more I did research, the more I found out there is no traditional Reiki.
Fair enough.
Well, and that's okay. I don't have any problem with that. It's just that I found out that people label this traditional and they have no idea what Usui did. So how could it be traditional? So, well, I did a lot of treatment. And in many treatments, it was a good a good success. So people felt better and illnesses were gone and so on. And sometimes not. And it wasn't usually the complicated cases where it didn't work out like it should. It was sometimes things like being just a simple cold, where I thought, I feel this guy and that guy and that guy with Reiki, and Reiki did a great job. Reiki did a great job at this simple cold. It doesn't go away. What's the difference? Well, and to understand what I like to explain then about Rainbow Reiki, I need to go a little bit back into my childhood years. I'm psychic since I'm conscious. So I was seeing dead dogs of my family coming into our living room, and I was meeting an angel when I was 2.5 years old, and this changed my life. And
Understandable.
before I was running into Reiki, I had no idea that there is something like a professional life where you teach spiritual things. So it was different world.
Yeah.
And since my childhood, I had very impressive, very clear films running in my mind when I was relaxing, when I was cycling through the area where I was living, lots of nature over there. Later on, I got the idea that might be memories of former lives because people were living very different then. And it was a different surrounding, a tropical surrounding. And they did things very differently. And then in the 90s, I realized more and more that these were memories from past lives.
Yeah.
But I did not trust this because I met a lot of people who were claiming they were seeing angels and they were remembering past lives, and didn't
Yeah.
seem to be very trustworthy. So I didn't want to be one of them.
Yeah.
So
Makes
it took
sense.
me more than 10 years to pass on the first of the techniques which I remembered to my students.
Wow.
And I treated hundreds, if not thousands, of people with this technique. I wanted to be very, very, very sure that this is a real thing and not something just going on in my mind.
Yeah.
So, and then in the 2000s, I started doing much more. I brought in more symbols. And you see, Reiki is an energy. It did not come to us with Usui. It came to us in a specific way through Usui and with his teachings. And Reiki has many names. It's all around the world. And of course, it was also in Lemuria. There, most of my memories were coming from. And of course, we had symbols. So I understood also what the symbols are doing. So symbols, in my experience, do not give another energy into the Reiki healing. They just emphasize the activities of Reiki on specific points where yin and yang meet. And by influencing this pattern, they create a focused effect.
Excellent, because I was going to ask you about that because I knew that you'd introduced new symbols, and
Yeah.
I know a lot of people put all their emphasis on this symbol has the power,
Oh,
whereas
no.
generally the symbol is a representation of our intention that we want to focus on. And so I know also through sacred geometry, if people are focusing on a certain pattern over a period of time, it can sort of take on more energy that way. But I was really wondering about that. I was wondering what your outlook was on that. And again, you were just saying this is where we're focusing this aspect of the energy. Am I right?
Well, yeah,
Intention.
it's a pattern where you have a focused influence on where Reiki through the whole yin yang scheme is influencing that scheme. And this creates a certain effect. And this means there are many, many symbols which you can get into working with Reiki. And this is because it's comes in very handy when you have a symbol which does a job within 20 seconds. Instead, you need to treat 10 times for 2 hours and hope that you will have a certain effect. So I'm very practical when it comes to healing. I want people to learn how to do the thing practically. So they come into the class, they don't know how to do it. I give them the knowledge, I initiate them. They learn how to do it. They have a stepwise introduction into a technique in my manuals, which are very big, and then they do the job. So, for example, a hip correction for me is about 10 seconds, and you can measure it. And I teach this to everybody who wants to learn this, as long as they have first degree. So that's the same with allergy deletion. It's the same with adjusting the jaws and adjusting the skull or adjusting the diaphragm and so on and so forth. And for me, the different classes are just because I cannot put it into one class. It's so much.
Wouldn't be
So we
wouldn't be
have a class.
possible. Yeah.
No, it's not
And
possible. It's not
and
possible.
it's 40 years of your life. You can't
Yeah,
just suddenly pass that on in a weekend. Yep.
impossible. And it's something where people specialize in. For example, we have a class which just deals with the spine, the musculoskeletal system. So we get back a joint into the spine without touching it by doing a special Reiki technique.
Okay.
This technique was not developed by me. I added some things to it, but I learned this from a US American guy. And it's so simple in a way if you have second degree of regular Reiki. And when he taught this to us, it was simple and it took much time. So with the Rainbow Reiki system, I was able to put certain things into it. And so we only need some minutes now, and before we needed hours.
Wow.
So
Amazing. Amazing.
what I want to do is I want to give people something which really is valuable in their life like it is.
And
So, for example,
effective.
yeah, exactly. The whole
Yeah.
body treatment. I love it. I love it. And most people don't do it. Maybe they do it a week after the class, and then they don't. And I understand it because position one, 3 minutes, position two, 3 minutes, position three, 3 minutes, and you doze away. That's normal. Everybody does it.
Yeah.
So I remember the method from ancient Lemuria where you can set up a whole body treatment for yourself, your family, your pets, and your friends within 2 to 3 minutes, and it runs on its own 20 minutes with all positions. This you
Well,
can do. Yeah.
wow.
So
I don't know
it's
whether
it's
to ask you to
practical.
share that or not.
Well, of course, I share that with everybody. So everybody who wants to go to my first degree class, they learn it, and it's a
Wonderful.
full-fledged distant healing.
Yes, that's what I thought you meant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
It's
and
called
so
Marayana Saji.
it's called what?
Marayana Saji. It's Lemurian.
Oh, that sounds really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking it could be almost like getting, when we use our crystals and we charge them and we put the teddy bear in the middle and we set it up, or we can use a Reiki drip and intend that that Reiki will continue to go unlimited for the next 20 minutes or whatever to wherever is needed. So you're going to have yours a whole lot more formal steps to do that, aren't you?
Well, I like to teach methods where I can let people know, do this, do that, and then you have the effect.
Perfect, perfect.
And it doesn't matter whether you are tired, whether you are distracted, whether you are stressed, it will work.
Wonderful. That is wonderful. So, your what are some of the other modalities you've got in your Rainbow Reiki, and some of the other things that your spiritual practices that you've learned that you've now incorporated into your Rainbow Reiki?
It's more about the philosophy. So most what I
Okay.
teach in Reiki is Lemurian.
Oh,
Some
wow.
things
Amazing.
are Egyptian, some things are Greece, but let's say 80% is Lemurian,
Amazing.
including the mantras, the symbols, the initiations. See, one thing which I noticed when I studied normal Reiki, usual Reiki, was that you needed to have a time between first and second degree. And I realized, yes, that is true because people get emotionally very unstable if you did this much shorter. I didn't do that, but I experienced this when other Reiki teachers said, "Well, I will do this right afterwards," and so on. And this was not good. So I analyzed the initiation rituals and I found out they don't stabilize the center. So I added something to stabilize the center, the area around the navel and
Yes, the
okay,
Tandan. Yeah.
exactly. And then no problem anymore. People could do the second degree right after the first degree. I thought it's not about spiritual development. I know colleagues who use a pendulum or they use the psychic senses, they say, to find out whether someone is ready to go into second degree. I don't do that because I think this is a thing of divine and of that person, not me. I can't.
I must say, I did level one and level two, and then my master said, "Walk on the beach tomorrow. Come back and do level." I did level one for 2 days. Then I walked on the beach on Wednesday. She said, "Come back and do level two on Thursday and Friday." And on the way home, I had a partial Kundalini experience. On the plane, I had all sorts of things happening, but it really changed my whole life, and I
Oh,
was ready
wonderful.
for it. And 3 weeks
Yeah.
later, I was doing Reiki on people, and a year later, I did the masters, and 3 weeks later, I was teaching, and now I've got over 1,000 students. So it's just
Wow.
been Reiki called me, and I'm sure it did the same for you too. It just calls us when we're ready, doesn't it?
In many ways, and I'm not sure about what ready means. So when I entered the Reiki community, there was a lot of things which I had no idea what it meant.
Yeah, I didn't
And
either.
there were many questions I was not allowed to ask. And this puzzled me. When I was at the first Reiki gathering with lots of Reiki masters from the United States, which have been trained by Takada and so on, I had a pressing question because I gave a class and one of my students was a naturopathic doctor for animals. And she used homeopathy, Nux vomica, when a horse had a colic. And she found out when she gave Nux vomica D6, which is a low potency, so there is material
As they do in
ingredients in
homeopathy.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah, it works great, but together with Reiki, it does not.
amazing.
And no, no. And so I wanted to ask all these
Why?
great Reiki masters about this because I had no idea what was going on. So we were sitting in a circle and were allowed to do questions. And then it was my time, and I was making the question, and everybody started to shout, "Ah!" And I thought, what's going on here? Is this a ritual or something? Then they calmed down, and I again started to make my question. Everybody was saying, "Ah!" Then I didn't say anything anymore. And when we were going to lunchtime, one of the older Reiki masters came to me and said, "See, we don't make these kind of questions. We trust in Reiki." That was the beginning of me departing from this international organization because I didn't want to be in a church.
No, that's right. And really, Reiki teaches us certainly, but you've got that inquisitive mind. I've got the same mind. I want to know how everything works as best I possibly can find out. And you're the same. Yes.
Yeah, I think so. I later found out by research what happened with a thing with a Nux
Of course.
vomica. It was very simple because there is a toxic ingredient in there, and Reiki activates the detox system of a being. So it was flushed out, even it was so low dose that it didn't do any harm. It was flushed out the system. So I recommended to the natural healing doctor, do D12, which is a higher potency. And then it was the opposite effect. It worked when you gave the horse D12, and it worked much more faster together with Reiki,
With Reiki.
because now Reiki was accelerating the beneficial effects.
That sounds
So
wonderful. Mm. So
this
that
is
does make
something,
sense, doesn't it? Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And I thought, why the heck couldn't they just say, I don't know, or something like that? And so I have my doubts whenever it comes to asking someone in the ancient Reiki community
I
about
know what you mean. Yeah.
any
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
I go
And
to the people who do the healing as a job.
yeah, that's exactly right. Because, like with my students, I've always said, if you've got any questions, ask me the questions, and if I don't know the answer, I will find out, and that will go in my
Exactly. Yeah.
next manual. And I've got on my website, I've got the manual so that every time there's an update, people can come and get the new update with anything else
Oh,
that I found
great.
out. Yeah, yep.
Same here. I'm so happy. You seem to be very much similar to my way of thinking.
Well, I just think we're all in it together, and
Yeah.
if one person can do something, we can all do it. But we
Yes,
need the
of course.
skills, and our purpose on this
Yeah.
planet as teachers is to
Yeah.
share
Yeah.
everything we've got with everybody who has ears to hear.
Exactly. Exactly. And this is
Mm,
something where I like the internet very much.
me too.
I'm not in general positive for technology because it has its negative sides. Still,
Mm.
sitting together with you here from the other side of the planet, being
Yeah.
able to have a chat, I love it. I
I
love
do
it.
too. It's just amazing. And I'm just really, really grateful that I've got you on the other side of the camera because, as I said, you're one of my heroes back in those early days when I had
Oh,
no understanding what Reiki was all about. And apart from this book that fell on my head, and then once I got on that spiritual journey, I could not get enough knowledge. I was reading
yeah,
everything I could
yeah,
get my
yeah.
hands on and just trying to
Yeah.
understand it.
Yes, I understand this very well. That's very similar here. I love to read books, and usually the books give me a hint,
Mm.
and I I take something serious, which was at the edge of my mind. my conscious mind.
Yeah.
It's like hypnosis. I've seen that you also do hypnosis.
Yeah.
I did that. I did a lot of hypnosis trainings, and I mixed this with Reiki because I found out, I think everybody knows this who does Reiki. When you apply Reiki, after a while you change your state of mind.
Oh, look, amazing. And even before I learned hypnosis, I would always, when I would be doing Reiki on someone and I just got knowledge, I would then do a meditation based on what I found in their energy and in their body. And I would always, they'd open their eyes and go, how did you know I needed to hear that? And I just have a chuckle to myself and I go, oh, I don't know. I just don't know. But when I've got clients sitting in my desk having hypnosis, sometimes I am talking to them and then I'll see the pictures and I'll say that and they'll go, how did you know that? I saw that just before you said it. And I say to them, our auras are actually merged. So we've got
Yeah.
this connection and I just know stuff that I shouldn't know, but I know stuff. And yeah, and so I agree, everything just works so well together, doesn't it?
It does, and it helped me so much to close the gap. Sometimes people have really strong symptom, like let's say a pain in the stomach, and I put my hands on the stomach, and it doesn't work. Reiki is not being pulled in, no reaction. Symptoms stay. I don't have the feeling. Then I use hypnosis and ask the subconscious mind to put their attention on the stomach and allow it to heal. There are many different ways
Yeah,
to help with hypnosis. And then suddenly the Reiki goes in and does the job as usual, and the stomach gets better.
yeah,
So I love to mix methods because I think the eclectic style is what we need today. It's like,
I agree.
that's about the rainbow. It's like in our society, we need all the different people there, not just one kind.
I agree. I totally agree with you. And the thing is, the world is changing so fast, and we've got
Oh,
to
yeah.
adapt. And I think, particularly the next few years is going to be really interesting with the global thing that's going on at the moment. And we're definitely going to need Reiki as a way to help people come back into balance and
I
stabilize their
think so.
energy and heal. So, yeah, very,
Yeah.
very much so. And so,
Yeah.
do you teach in Australia? Have you been to Australia to teach or?
I was once invited to Australia, but that's long ago, I think 15 years ago. It
Well,
it doesn't work out then. And I love to teach there. Uh, and the way I'm most fond of teaching is via internet. So
excellent.
yes, yes, I teach all these classes to Brazilian people via the internet, to people on the Philippines, people in Hong Kong and in India and United States and so on. You see, for more than 30 years, I was traveling all the different highways. I was sitting in the planes. I was driving with a train. I do it when I must, but I'm very happy if I can stay at home with my wife and my cats and
Lovely.
teach online.
Yeah, and so that question comes up now that you've mentioned that because through Reiki Australia the understanding is that we'll only let people join our association if they've been attuned in person, and that is that a lot of associations are the same, and we've had Johannes Randall on as well, and I think he's exactly the same. That's part of that lineage. But I also had one of my other guests said that's how she teaches online. And the truth is, I've had people on the internet in Canada or in Ireland, one woman with a torn rotator cuff, and I said, let me just pull that right out of your shoulder. And she says, it's gone. And so if we can do distance healing, we can do distance attunements.
Yes, of course we can.
And so what
I've
is
done this
your,
with hundreds of people.
and so when you teach Rainbow Reiki, do you teach that the whole thing online? So you do attunements over the
Yes.
internet? Okay.
Yes, I do this since COVID. I give
Yeah.
online classes for many subjects, not Rainbow Reiki, since 2008. Then
Okay.
COVID started. And we have organization here in Germany, and they say you must teach Reiki being physically present. And I thought, during COVID, there are so many needy people, and I cannot travel to them because of the regulations of the government, which make sense or make not sense. I am not a virologist, I have no idea, but it was forbidden to go there. So I thought, now
I
I have
still
to wait.
taught classes in person, by the way.
Yeah,
through
we were
through
not allowed to
COVID, I
do that.
still did. Yeah.
You could be arrested and paid high fines and everything.
Wow.
That's when I had to close my center because neither the government nor the regional government could tell me what are the regulations.
Wow.
They just did not tell me. So I closed my center and I thought there are so many needy people and I don't want to stay away. As a Reiki master, I have a obligation. I have been given something
It's
by
a
Creator
calling.
and it's a calling and it's my decision. And other people might make other decisions, but it's my decision to be of service. When I can teach, I will teach.
Brilliant.
So I was looking into my memories, how to do it most easily, because my late master who trained me, Brigitte Müller, told me that she initiated someone by distance in New York while she was in Frankfurt because they had a relative with cancer and needed treatment, and there was no one at that time in New York teaching Reiki. It was rare. So she did that initiation. So I knew that works. So I was getting into my memories deep. It took me some time to find out what is the easiest.
I think you've just frozen. So I hope you're still there. Oh,
Oh, okay.
you
Yeah,
just
no
froze for
better.
a moment. Yeah. So
Oh,
I
sorry. And
so
so I developed a method, a kind of platform where you can give initiations. And since that time, I only give these kind of classes. It became the norm in my school. And today I do this. And so people spare a lot of money because I made a calculation and I saw that usually people pay at least the same amount as for the class and traveling cost, and often much more than that.
yeah, definitely the
And you never
traveling
have
and the
enough toilets in the
accommodation.
center.
Yeah.
You never have enough toilets in the center, and the restaurants are all well, yeah, that's that's a rule of thumb, you know. And the restaurants are being late and so on. Well, with the online classes, I have more time for teaching, and it's in person.
Yes. Yeah.
That Usui didn't do this, yes, I know. And
He didn't
Usui
have
lived
the
in different
opportunity
scales.
to do it. It
No,
wasn't available. So it is
no,
evolution, isn't it? We're all
it's
evolving.
evolution.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I understand when people say, I only want to teach in person. That's quite okay for me. I don't have any objections against that, but that's not what I do.
Yeah, that's right. Each person's got to find their pathway so they can share
Yeah,
their essence in any way that they possibly can, really, haven't they?
exactly,
That's our life
exactly.
purpose, really, to share parts of what we do through everything that we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. So I had one little problem, and that was when I tried to look on your website, it was all in German. So do you have an English website, or we best to go and find a page on Facebook or something to find out more about when your classes are on and all that sort of information, because you've got so much knowledge. And yeah,
Yeah, yeah. There is a YouTube channel where you find lots of English language videos,
I have found
and
those.
also, oh, okay. There is I think, a five-part biography where someone interviews me from India, a lady from India, about my life, and I have interviews done with Robert Fuston, for example, Patrick Ziegler, and
Patrick's one of my friends too. He's coming in September, and I've done 6 workshops with him or something already.
he's a
So
great
yeah,
guy. He's a great
yeah,
guy. I
and
love him.
they've stayed at our house, and I think I first trained with him in 2005. Yeah,
He's a wonderful guy. I love him.
yeah, lovely man, and Surly, she's beautiful too. So
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I did interviews with Justin Stein, and many others, and in a few weeks I will do an interview. I'm looking much forward. It's not Reiki. It's a different thing, but it's spiritual.
okay,
Well, to the nines. Uh, this guy, Lon Milo Duquette, I don't know whether you ever heard about him.
So what was that name again, please?
Lon Milo Duquette. He's from California. He's old. I don't know how old, but I think in the 70s or 80s, maybe. And he is the number two of a worldwide magical order. Western magic is a spiritual path. It's not about making people ill or something. It's a spiritual path.
Yeah.
He wrote lots of great books, very good books, and he is a specialist in tarot.
Oh,
In tarot,
beautiful.
and he's a high-grade Freemason.
Oh, wow. So he will have a
And
lot of information.
yes, he's really a wise guy. One of these guys who really incorporates all these spiritual things. And I'm looking much forward to do the interview with him.
That sounds
And if people
wonderful.
want to know more about my work, it's a YouTube channel. They can address me on Facebook, of course. I had for more than 15 years an English website. I
I
skipped it
remember.
because,
I have seen it before, and then I was surprised when I went back and I couldn't find it. Yeah.
yeah, because I had not many people from the English language world in my classes without organizers. So usually when people want me to do an English class, they organize me, for example, in the Philippines or in Brazil or in New York or something. And because they pass on all the information, which I, of course, have in English, then there is no need for a website,
Hmm.
which costs me a lot of money. So I'm now 60, I'm good getting 66, and I'm reducing activities. Still, I'd love to give classes in English too. My English is far from perfect, but I
It
try my
sounds
very
very
best.
good to me. And
Thank you.
let me say I've got a couple of years on you, and I'm still going. I don't know if I'll ever slow down. I'm raising a granddaughter who'll be 8 in July, so it's a
Oh,
busy
wow.
life.
Wow.
Yeah, very busy life. Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's why we are here. We are needed to have a busy life and move a lot of things, which I want to do. I want to write more.
yeah. And I haven't written any books, but I think that's waiting for me after I finish this next
Yeah,
chapter. Yeah,
you
definitely.
should. You should definitely. With all your experience, that would be great.
Oh, yeah, I've had a lot of things. I've had breast cancer twice too, and bone cancer, and I healed the bone cancer.
Oh,
And yeah,
oh,
it just I've never seen anything as a problem. Everything's just an opportunity to overcome and to learn. And really, I just
that's
see
right.
everything as a gift. Yeah. And so, how do you see Reiki evolving in our modern world, especially in healthcare settings? Do you see that happening? Because at the moment we're canvassing the health funds, trying to get Reiki into, so people can get rebates and to get Reiki more into the hospitals, which the government hasn't sort of happened. I think it did happen in 1995, 97, but they've taken it off the agenda now. So how is it in Germany, for example?
Well, you see, we had a kind of Reiki medieval age time in the 80s and in the 90s. And at the end of the 90s, there was the first hands-on research done about what Usui and Hayashi did and what Takada did. And I call this a Reiki Renaissance.
Excellent.
And I think then in the 2000s, many people were getting public with the research they did, the development they did all around Reiki. And then Reiki declined in public focus a lot. At the moment, it's climbing up again.
I agree. Yeah,
And I think we need another Reiki Renaissance
I think you're right.
so that people are clear about what it is, that it's not abracadabra, it's not a cult, it's not a something like that. It's nothing you have to believe in like a church. We have no pope, and that's good. And we can learn it. And
Yeah,
I
and
think
no doctrines, no
no doctrines, no,
yeah,
no.
it's just it's fact. It's just
It-
reality.
It's fact-based. People should do what works.
Hmm.
And this thing with Reiki in hospitals, I've seen this in the 90s. And as long as the hospitals don't have to pay for it, they some of them invited Reiki practitioners for a time without acknowledging them.
Okay.
At the moment in the United States, they are pushed out of the system, out of, well, look at the government, you know why.
Oh, yes. Oh,
There will be different times then, and I think it's in several countries, including Germany. It's if it does not cost money, you can put your hand somewhere. We have one clinic in Berlin. They have regularly paid Reiki practitioners, and they are just they are not part of the governmental healthcare system. They are part of a professionalism, professional healthcare system. So the aim of that clinic is to get people back to work as soon as possible because then they have to pay less money to them.
no, it's
This is
always
why
about
they
the
love
money, isn't it?
it's about the money. Yes, just money makes the world go round. It's like that. We can
Uh-huh.
like it, we can not like it, but it's like that.
That's right.
So this clinic does a great job with, I think, about 20 Reiki practitioners who treat people there. It's a so-called UKB. It's in the translation, it's Accident Clinic Berlin, also Unfallkrankenhaus Berlin.
Okay.
And they have great results with being Reiki treatments for people who have had accidents and they need to support it to get back to work. So
Yeah,
this is why they have a relatively big department of Reiki practitioners.
that's
They pay
good.
them. Yeah, that's good. But most of the clinics are part of a national governmental healthcare system, and they have different targets. They have a different focus.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So I think whenever it's about not being church directed and that they want to make people healthy as fast as possible, Reiki is in.
Yeah,
And
that
if
makes
not,
sense.
Reiki is out.
There are
Yeah.
there are some hospitals here that do have Reiki in the usually in the cancer wards, that sort of thing. And hospices, there are some of those, but we really want to get more recognition. And I think really the way the world's going, I think it's going to happen. That's really what I want. Want for everybody. Yeah.
I'm not sure about that, because the problem is, and this is something, uh, well, there was a guy in Sweden about 25 years ago, and he was heading the commission of the Nobel Prize Committee for Medicine. He was retired then, so he could speak freely. And he told me Reiki will not officially recognized because if they would do it, they need to
Regulate.
turn around the whole structure of academic research and training.
Okay.
So you can do whatever you want. You will not get into the big magazines. And if you are not in the big magazines, you are not recognized.
Fair enough.
I
So
think Reiki is a grassroots movement. I had my
yeah,
time in the 90s and beginning of 2000s that I wanted to do something Reiki being recognized. I then found out that there are very strong, very wealthy people and organizations not wanting that.
yeah, that does
Still,
make
if you
sense.
do a
It's like
if
big
you do a
pharma,
grassroots
isn't it?
movement, yeah, yeah, it is. Not only.
Yeah, yeah,
There
but
are
it's that mindset.
it's that mindset. It's a institutionalized health structure.
Yeah, I'm an ex-nurse, by the way, too. So,
Then
so
you
I
know the system.
understand. Yeah, I know
Then
I
you know the
understand
system.
that. Yeah,
So what I do is I do a grassroots movement and I try to train people in a way that they can make a difference.
definitely.
And I encourage everybody, every master I train to do the same if they want to. And I think what Reiki really needs is that we heal people.
Get back
This
to
is how
basics.
Takata got people into their classes by healing the family. And then the family said, we need to learn that.
Exactly. Just getting back to basics again, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so, what challenges have you faced over the years getting Reiki out there? Because you've been doing this for nearly 40 years. What are some of the challenges you've had to deal with?
One challenge is that people think they must believe in it. That's a way of positive thinking or something like that. And then usually I do a hip correction with them. Within 10 seconds, 20 seconds, I have straight hips and they can measure it. And whether they believe it or not, it happens. And
Yeah.
everybody can measure it.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I have a lady who came in once. Her son, I did a session on him, and even though he'd been on oxycodone for 18 months, he got up off the table and said, "Oh my God, the pain's gone." And his mother came in
yeah.
a month later, and she said, "I don't really believe in this, but I've seen what you've done with Paul, and I'm willing to give you a chance." And I said, "I don't care if you believe or not. Just get on the table. We'll see what we can do." And she finished the
That's
session, and
wonderful.
yeah, and she had arthritis in every joint in her body. She got up and she said, "Am I supposed to have pins and needles in every joint in my body?" And I said, "I don't know. All I know is you draw what you need for your own healing, and if that's what you've got, it's probably what you're meant to get." And a month later, she came up to me in the street and hugged me, and she said, "I don't know what you did with your magic hands, but I've had no pain since."
Wonderful,
So,
wonderful.
so
That's
it,
really wow, that's beautiful. So that's one obstacle where people think they need to believe in it. Another obstacle I was running into it was that people didn't want the symptoms, but they didn't want to change their lives.
yeah, definitely,
And
definitely.
I'm sorry, that's not me. It's Reiki. When Reiki heals you, you usually, if the illness goes deep, you have to change the ways you live.
I got to have a change in consciousness, haven't we?
Yes, yes,
Mm.
absolutely. And well, then one of the major obstacles was people in the Reiki community who didn't want me to explore new ways, to do research, to and so on. And there were times I thought I had to struggle with them, and then I meditated a lot about that and asked my guides, and I came to the conclusion, no, I don't have to.
Good,
I don't
good.
have to.
Because if you
They
had
can
listened
do.
to them, you would not be
Yeah,
doing what you're doing now. So everything's a
I,
stepping
I, I
stone.
think so. I think so.
Mm.
You know, in a way, it's like martial arts. I don't know everybody, of course, not who does martial arts, but I know many people, including me, when we started martial arts, we thought about getting stronger, getting bigger, whatever, being able to, yeah, yeah, this kind of thing. Yeah, 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 exactly. And
Bruce
then
Lee.
after some years, you get very peaceful inside. You just avoided things. And I just yesterday I did an interview with someone I like very much, a martial arts master who is also a Reiki master, who is also a Qigong master,
Wonderful.
a great guy.
Yeah.
And he said one of his senior teachers of Tai Chi Chuan said, the first stage of Tai Chi Chuan is that you are able to do self-defense effectively. The second stage is that you avoid instinctively, intuitively situations where you would have to go self-defense. And I thought, this is wise.
It is, yeah, and
Yeah.
when we used to teach martial arts, teach Taekwondo, we would say your goal is to build your confidence so you've got the ability to do whatever you need to do. But when you get to that stage, you won't need it.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah,
because
isn't
your
that
confidence
wonderful?
is there. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And so I think Reiki is like a river which wants to come to the ocean. And if it cannot flow like this, it will flow like that. And if it cannot flow like that, it will flow like that. It will find a way.
definitely. I agree. It always finds a way through, doesn't it? And it always goes through the people that need it the most, really. Well, I hope it does anyway. I mean, as you say, you've got to be willing to shift your consciousness. And there's always that secondary gain in being sick for a lot of people as well. So you want
Yeah,
to,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I think
What do
that's
you,
important.
sorry, go ahead.
And what I really love when it comes to do research about how Usui did Reiki is looking at his principles, the five principles, whether it comes from him or from Meiji Tenno, I don't care. They are
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
And meditation. And he said, talking about life is important. This is why he invited the people. That's what I do. I have a extensive philosophy behind that and behind the practical applications. And much of this is about the five principles because I think personality development in a spiritual way does not come automatically when you place your hands on the body. If it would be different, the world would be different. I would have had different experiences. So I take Usui's teaching serious that he said, you need to do meditation. You need to deal, you need to think, you need to meditate about the five principles. You need to do this regularly. And then together with Reiki, it will help you. On his memorial stone, you do not find Reiki hand positions. You find the
No,
five principles and meditation.
exactly.
So I
Exactly.
think that's if you want to do a personality development with Reiki, this is a way to go, to take him serious, to take the five principles serious, and to work with meditation, the principles, and Reiki energy.
I agree. I agree totally. I did a Vipassana years ago, and that was sort of well, it was probably the hardest thing I'd ever done because I'm a talker and you're not allowed to talk for those 10 days. And I know when I went in to do the class, they said, if you've done Reiki, you are not allowed to do Reiki while you are here. This is one technique you've got to learn. And if we find out you're doing Reiki, you'll have to leave. But it really got me into the habit of really stilling the mind and just going. It was like a fast track to learning how to deeply relax and deeply come in contact with the stillness that the monkey mind is always so loud in our Western world, but that was the one thing that gave me that gift. And after that, I meditate every day, and that's been, probably 15 years since I did that. But
Wonderful.
just such a blessing to really connect in with the stillness, with the soul, and just
Mhm.
to take in that higher knowledge that comes when we allow that mind to stop talking. Yeah. So what is your future vision, Walter, for Reiki?
Well, my vision is I want to contribute to make the world a paradise again for all the beings living here, including the animals. And
Perfect.
my mission is that I try my very best to train at least one good, practically good spiritual healer for each street. So, because I think when in every street you have at least one really good spiritual healer,
Perfect.
then people can go there just in the neighborhood and get the healing what they need, and they get some advice. So, this is what I wish for. What I think will happen is that with the next generation, because when the old academics are dying out, the
Yeah.
next generation, the let's say quantum-based methods
Yeah. I love
w-
quantum physics. I
will
love the whole concept of it, which is why we can do anything at a distance.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. I think that these quantum methods will, including Reiki, will get much more attention and much more recognition, and it will take another 10, 15 years, maybe.
Okay.
And we are teaching the people who will change the world.
I agree. Yeah.
I
We've
I
just
think
that's our job, isn't it? Is to give them
that,
what
that
they need.
that's
Yeah.
our job. That's what I often pass on to my master students. We have a three-degree master system, first done, second done, third done. And I explain that we know Martin Luther King. We know about Martin Luther King. We know about Gandhi. We know about John F. Kennedy. What we do not know is who taught them to become the person they are. And that's okay that we don't know. And we should realize that the teachers of Gandhi and of Kennedy and of Martin Luther King and other people are extremely important because their disciples, their students changed the world. So maybe that we never get any recognition, and I don't care about that.
There you go.
Still, maybe we train someone who changes the world because of our training.
Sounds
And
wonderful.
if it's one person, if it's just one person, your whole life being dedicated to teaching is something very good.
Excellent. Yes, my husband's a fifth Dan black belt in Taekwondo, and
Ah,
he always would say, "My job, if I'm a good teacher, I can teach others to be greater than I am. That's the purpose of the
exactly.
teacher, is
Exactly. Yeah.
to rise those students up so they stand on our shoulders and become greater than we ever could." And
Exactly. Exactly.
yeah, I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, that,
Excellent.
that is. That is. There is a special degree in Chinese systems. When a teacher signs a certificate with red ink, he declares the student to whom he gives that certificate to have grown beyond what
Beyond,
he was taught.
beyond.
That is, I think, a very, very good thing.
Yeah, I think so too. I agree. That is our purpose, is to, it's like with our own children. We want our children to grow beyond us. And now I'm
Of
raising
course.
this little child, this little 7-year-old who's nearly 8. And she said to me the other day, "Grandma, I'm going to take over from you. You know that, don't you?" And I said, "Yes, darling, I believe you will." And, she's been doing Reiki on me since she was about 4. So I tuned her early, but if anything would happen, or the cats or the dogs, she'd just put the hands on straight away. So
Yeah, yeah.
these are the babies that are going to change the future, hopefully.
Yes, yes. I'm
Yeah,
looking much forward to that. And I think that it's worth it to do it, to train the next generation.
very much so. So if you could give one piece of advice to Reiki practitioners all over the place, worldwide, Australia-wide, what would that be?
Get yourself a translation of the text of the memorial stone close to Usui's grave, and not only do Reiki as putting your hands on your body or other people's body. Additionally, think about the five principles and meditate and make this a regular habit.
Excellent. I agree totally. I agree. And I think that some people have lost their focus, and they've think of it only as a hands-on healing method. But it is through those precepts that we connect with our spiritual nature, isn't it really?
Yes, yes, and it really covers the whole universe. For me, these five principles are 5 plus 1 principle because only today for me is also very important.
Very
And I've
true.
seen many miracles happening by changing the structure of people's lives when they were really using the principles.
Mm, wonderful. Wonderful. So is there anything else you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, about my rainbow Reiki system. If you
Thank
want
you.
to,
Yes, I want
if
to
you want,
learn more. And I
if you
have that
want
on my
to,
little list. And yeah, because I think that once people see this interview, there'll be a lot of people want to learn more. So tell us a bit more about how we can get on, and if you've got any classes that are already sort of booked out online, and where they can register. If you flick me the information, I'll make sure it goes on with this video as well.
well, one way is that there is an organizer in Australia getting together people and then I teach. Another
Okay.
way is that I would always do that. And then there is a Rainbow Reiki first degree, which I teach in 2 languages as usual. In some weeks, where is it? It's the 27th and 28th of September. It's a
Excellent.
weekend. And the times are odd for people in Australia. So what I usually do is when people are far away, someone organizes me and I get up at 4 in the morning or something like that and do the teaching
Well,
because I want them to have comfortable times. For me, I can do that, you know.
okay. All right. So I'm going to pop this up on our Reiki Australia website as well. We've actually in Dubbo we've got Patrick and Surly coming on the 20th and 21st and 23rd of September.
Oh,
So
great,
yeah,
great.
so that's going to be a busy time, and that's like a week before. But I will make sure not everybody's going to come to Dubbo, I can tell you. But if your Rainbow Reiki's online, then there's so many more opportunities for so many people to be able to do that. So
That's right.
yeah, so I will make sure we pop that down, and let's stay in touch. Let's make sure that we stay connected now.
I'd love to. Mhm.
Excellent. Well, I
Thank you so
think I think we want to really just be so grateful that we've had you here to talk, because you just really given us a lot of clarification, but you've also given people a few things to think about, and really that's what we want. We want to open minds so that people have, find new pathways to become more of who they're meant to be. So thank you so much, Walter. And
Thank you. Thank you.
and as I said, I will be sharing this video on our website, but also on our YouTube channel and in all our social media pages. So
Oh,
hopefully you'll
thank you.
have lots of people jumping in and saying hello.
Thank you so
Excellent.
much. It's a
So
great talk. Bye
many
bye.
blessings to you.